So, federal employees are currently upset that they've been asked to send an email listing a few things that they did last week. Not yesterday, not over the course of an afternoon, but 5 things that they did in an entire week. This is something that most of us could easily do, but apparently asking the people who constantly like to yell, educate yourself, to do something very simple is just sending them over the edge. Let's get into it. Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. I appreciate you being here. Do me a couple of favors, hit the thumbs up button, become a subscriber to my channel if you're not already, and turn on the notifications so that you never miss out on a conversation like the one we're about to have. So as I'm sure many of you have heard, Elon Musk posted on X a couple of days ago, sharing with us that an email was going to be sent to all federal employees that they need to respond with a short list of things that they accomplished last week.
What would you say you do here?
And this was that tweet. It says, consistent with President Trump's instructions, all federal employees will shortly receive an email requesting to understand what they got done last week. And he even added, failure to respond will be taken as a resignation. Now, this seems like a very, very, very basic request. If you've ever had a job in your life or even done volunteer work or had any level of responsibility at all, you are likely to be asked about your productivity at some point in some form or another. Employers check in with their employees all the time. How are they spending their time? Are they getting their work done? And if they find that an employee is not doing the job that they were hired to do or failing to comply with these requests, they have the right to fire them. This is literally a possibility that every single one of us has had to face at different points in our lives. Yet for some reason, federal employees seem to believe that they are completely exempt from accountability.
About a month in, and Alonia still doesn't understand how chain of command works. It is Saturday, and government employees are receiving an email from hr@opm.gov. Let me show you. As a federal employee, I just want to remind everybody that I do not report to OPM. I report to my supervisor, who reports to their supervisor, who reports to our HR, who reports to a lot of other people, but I do not report to OPM. As you can see, it says, please reply to this email with approximately 5 bullets of what you accomplished last week and CC your manager. Please do not send any classified information. Deadline is this Monday at 11:59 p.m. Alonia also tweeted and said that if we don't respond by the deadline, that it will count as our resignation. But the deadline said this coming Monday. It didn't even have a date listed. They keep sending these emails on Saturdays and then saying that we miss the emails because we're lazy. Nowhere in this email does it state that I will be terminated if I miss this deadline. Nowhere in this email does it state that I even have to open the email. So I will be reporting this email as phishing until my manager tells me otherwise.
First, to say that Elon Musk doesn't understand the chain of command and doesn't understand how employment works. This man has run and owned countless businesses with numerous employees. So clearly he has a greater understanding of how that all works than this young lady does. And these people can complain about Elon Musk supposedly being a bully or not having the authority to do this all they want. But screw Elon Musk. I want to know what you're doing to deserve to be paid with my money as the taxpayer. For all intents and purposes, I'm your boss. People watching this video are your boss, and we want to know how our money is being used. Only 4 weeks into the investigations by Doge, we've already had it up to here with the amount of fraud, the time wasting, the money wasting, financial abuse, and entitlement that has already been uncovered. So your pleas for sympathy are going to fall on deaf ears.
First, just tell us about this email and what it was like receiving it and what you all have talked about after getting it.
Sure. I got this email Saturday afternoon, about 3 p.m., and I felt absolutely infuriated getting this email with a demand within 48 hours to provide a response on what I did within the last week or face termination. This is clearly an attempt from Elon Musk to harass and bully and intimidate the federal workforce, which is part of his broader plan to gut the federal workforce and privatize public sector services.
Yes, your terms are acceptable. And to be fair, there have been some heads of these agencies or HR personnel that have instructed their employees to ignore the email or to hold off on responding for now, but it's not about the law, which so many of these people completely fail to understand. This is about accountability. This is about answering to the people who fund your paychecks. But I also find it funny how many of these people are pissed about receiving a communication about their job over the weekend, again, painting themselves as some kind of victim of overreach when communication from your workplace on a weekend is something, again, that the rest of us have had to deal with at some point in time. They are acting like these are the most unreasonable requests that could ever be made of them, which says to the rest of us, if you're this pissed about having to comply with a very basic request and a baseline level of accountability, then you should lose your job. Elon Musk is not the problem here. You are. The fact that they've been programmed to become immediately angry at anything to do with Trump and now Elon, because now we've had Trump derangement syndrome and now we have Elon derangement syndrome, which causes them to become immediately enraged with no logic or explanation to these feelings as proven by this situation. It makes it impossible for them to sit back and consider what the overall intended goal might be. Because ultimately, while yes, slimming down federal agencies is the overall objective, the other goal is to uncover fraud and mismanagement of funds. What Elon was trying to do was find out how many people actually read their email, but also what email accounts are still active and maybe shouldn't be, and start the process of figuring out if there are people who are no longer employed with the federal government but still might be receiving paychecks. As we discovered with the Social Security checks, money is still being sent out to people that have been dead for decades. So we need to know if this is what is happening in these agencies as well. And based on what we've discovered thus far, it would be more shocking if it wasn't. This is a tweet that someone posted that either used to work for Tesla or still does, but they said, proud to say I once had to send Elon an email detailing what I had done and was planning to do. His reply was, sounds good, carry on. It ain't that hard. Send the email. To which Elon responded and said, this email is a very basic pulse check. Elon also posted, he said, the reason this matters is that a significant number of people who are supposed to be working for the government are doing so little work that they are not checking their email at all. In some cases, we believe non-existent people or the identities of dead people are being used to collect paychecks. In other words, there is outright fraud. In other words, guys, it's more than just about you. But responding in such a hysterical way makes you look guilty of being unproductive, and it also shows how much grace we've given the federal government, trusting them when they continued to hire for these positions, which suggested that millions of employees across countless agencies were needed because it was helping us. I mean, that's what federal agencies are supposed to be doing, working for the good of the country. But we're being hit with a wrecking ball of reality that more often than not, it's not the case. And the reaction we're seeing now is only hurting your case. Walsh tweeted, I already had a low opinion of many federal workers, but now that I've seen them all melt down and cry because they're expected to provide the faintest evidence that they're actually accomplishing anything with the taxpayer-funded job we've given them, I realized that my opinion of them was still somehow too high. Completely agree. But I do want to address another part of this, which is that there are members of Trump's cabinet who have instructed the people in their agencies to not respond or to hold off for now. Kash Patel, the new FBI director, is one, and Tulsi Gabbard is another. And I get that people would question this, and this was a panel that raised this issue for discussion.
You would know that what Elon Musk did, this directive, was a good approach to it if everyone had gone along with it. But you saw all of these Trump cabinet appointees who instructed their bureaucracies not to respond. Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, the State Department all said, don't worry, if you saw that email, don't say anything. So if it is going to save America, why don't the rest of the people that Donald Trump loves think that it's a good idea?
Well, if you're in the Pentagon, you can't Elon Musk email him and say, oh, I staged a coup in Cambodia last week.
But that's an argument for Elon Musk taking a breather before he sends an email like that to millions of people and say, oh, maybe folks who work on classified information can't respond to this right away. Or maybe a federal judge who's going to get this email Saturday night or whatever isn't going to be able to talk about privileged information that's going on in their courtrooms, for instance.
I might just write back and say, see me. If that were,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
I'll
See
get
me.
back to you.
And people saying hold off in these cases makes sense to me, because to me, it's not that these agencies aren't going to be audited or investigated or that they can refuse because they are being given special treatment by Trump. I have no doubt that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are going to hold the FBI accountable, but not all federal agencies are the same. Someone working in an environmental agency isn't going to have the same standard of confidentiality as someone who is working in the FBI. So I get that Kash Patel would be like, just wait for further instruction on that. And I think we can all agree that that is a smart move. Believe it or not, libs, we actually do care about security and handling confidential information with care. However, this email, again, was never meant to be about detailing the deepest inner workings of your position, but to report that your position is being filled with an actual human being and that there is an actual person at the other end of that email address. Now, before we get too caught up in the sob stories of people losing their jobs, and I know that we all feel so bad for them, this woman who claims to have been a federal employee had her own thoughts on this new level of accountability for current federal employees. And if what she's saying is true, which at this point I have little doubt, then cutbacks are absolutely necessary and nobody should be saying otherwise.
I used to be a federal employee. I worked for the Army Corps of Engineers for almost a year, and the abuses that I saw by government employees was astounding and shocking. I worked as a realty specialist, and that is someone who manages government-owned lands. When I was hired, my boss bragged that it was basically impossible to get fired from the federal government, and that in her entire time working for the government, she'd only seen one person fired, and that person assaulted a fellow employee, and she wasn't even fired for assaulting the employee at work. She was fired for lying about it because they caught it on camera. When I worked for the government, we were allowed to work 50% in the office and 50% from home for the most part. I use the word work very loosely. One employee spent his time remote working, running his own farm. Another employee bragged about drunk driving and going out to lunch with her friends for margaritas when she was supposed to be remote working. No one would log into their computers, and you can see it because they're not on Teams, and no one ever checked. There's something called the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the work in government is done by 20% of the people, and this is very, very true. People who get a job in the government a lot of times find out that it's very difficult to fire them, and they take advantage of this.
Again, who knows if that's true, but considering what was uncovered this week, it seems to show that this is entirely believable. This was a tweet by Christopher Rufo that he shared just a couple of days ago. It says, exclusive, Hannah Grossman and I have obtained logs from the NSA's secret transgender sex chat room, in which NSA, CIA, and DIA employees discuss genital castration, artificial vaginas, piss fetishes, sex polycules, and gangbangs, all on government time. The NSA maintains a chat system for the intelligence community called Intelink. The servers are supposed to be used for government work, but gender activists have hijacked at least two channels, LGBTQ and IC Pride, TWG, to discuss fetishes, kink, and sex, all legitimized as DEI. So Democrats, please defend this to me. I'd love to hear it. Give it your best shot. Now, I do want to give some of these people credit, because there are those who are not triggered by being held accountable and those who have no problem sending this email, who are not threatened by being asked to do something very, very simple, and who want to show the American people that they respect us and our desire for some transparency.
I am a federal employee that got an email this Saturday basically stating that I needed to highlight 5 accomplishments that I had last week. And to me, that was not a huge deal. I am someone who likes to highlight my accomplishments, and it was sent over in about a email that took me six minutes, something like that. I used to work for the private sector for about 13 years, so I was held accountable every day. I had lists of things that needed to be done every day, and it was just not a big deal to me to send that out. So I would say highlight the things that you do. Highlight, who you are as a federal employee and the things that you're accomplishing. Like, just say it. I would encourage you to do that.
Thank you. It's not that hard. We don't want your social security number. We don't need you to pee in a cup. Well, yet. We don't want to know where you live or how many kids you have or when your last doctor's visit was. You know, like the medical information that y'all demanded from us if we wanted to keep our jobs like 4 years ago. Just a couple of things to let us know that you're still breathing, and that's it. Anyway, I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this in the comments below. Again, please be sure to hit the thumbs up button. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel so you can help me to grow this channel. Other than that, keep it real, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.